alaikum. So first of all, tell me that do you have any question regarding last lectures? And have you started your assignment? What about the assignment? Okay, please try to cover your assignment as soon as possible and then send it to me. Okay, now today's lecture is lecture number 10. Okay. And in this lecture, we're gonna learn about how to monitor cybersecurity risks, that if there are any risks, that how can we monitor them, and how to create a risk response plan. That if there is any risk, and after that risk, what will be our evaluation and how will we give a response to that risk. It means that, okay? So our objectives is to learn about to monitor cybersecurity risk and to create risk response plan. How to monitor cybersecurity risk? Okay, what do you think that how would you monitor about any risk? If there is any risk, it can be regarding any type. Means it can be of cybersecurity, it can be of your computer, it can be of your life risk, that any risk that is that includes in your real life or during your assignment or any project. So how will you monitor about that risk? Okay, now, so there are some key steps for monitoring risk. Once you have your risk register established, it's time to implement your monitoring process. There are few steps that will help along the way. So what are the after risk is registered means once there is a risk, you know that there is a risk. Now what will you do? You will monitor your risk response plan. You will see that what are our risk response plan, how will we respond to that risk. Then identify trigger conditions, that what are the main issues and conditions that we have to see. Then continually analyze for new risk. Then you will see that if there is any new risk, and then evaluate the effectiveness of your risk management plan. That if you have any plan about your risk, that how will we reduce our risk and what will be the conditions or what will be the processes, then you will follow those. Now, monitoring your risk response plan. How will you monitor your risk response plan? Each risk has its own response plan and risk owner. Now, the risk owner's responsibility is to implement the response plan for each incident and report back to the company risk manager. Now, if you're working in a company and as an employee, you see that there is a risk and we have the risk response plan. So you will report to the risk manager, the manager who is handling these situations. You will tell them that there is a risk and this is our risk response plan for different incident. So what we have to do now? Now, according to the scenario, they will require its own careful review to determine whether a contingency plan should be implemented or a new plan. That there is a plan that is made before, that plan will work, or we have to make a new plan. According to the scenario, they will see. Okay, now there are some points about identifying trigger conditions. How will you identify trigger conditions? It's important for risk owners and project managers to keep an eye on project risk triggers, which are indicators that an incident has occurred or will occur. By monitoring your trigger conditions, you can be proactive rather than reactive to avoid costly damage incidents. Now you have to see that where the problem is originating. Now the main point from where the problem is started, or and how bad that problem is, or which parts they can affect. So we have to find out that main one point from where the problem is originating. Okay, then analyze of new risk. One of the exciting things about running an organization is that business is always evolving. Now, what does it mean that business is always evolving? Will you please tell me that what does it mean?
It's when we are making progress and making new ideas and plans.
Yes, they are continuously working on each thing. If there is one thing, then they will see that the next what will happen and what can be happen. It is a continuous process. The organization or a company or a worker doesn't stop working. Very good, Abdullah. Now, while this is great for growth and innovation, it means risk must always be re-evaluated. You must see that after finding the trigger point, you have to see that is there any or more risk, or any of our sensitive data is at risk. Be sure to have your risk managers regularly consider how new programs or projects present new risk to the organization, and use the risk assessment protocol to help plan for and mitigate risk where possible. Now you have to see that, or a risk manager or a person who is responsible for all these security purposes, he must see that there should be no risk, or if there is any risk, or if there is any weakness that can harm us, that can originate a new risk to our company. And after some risk is happened, what we are going to do next, the assessment or the plan should be ready to lower the risk or to end the risk where possible. Now evaluate effectiveness. Then you will see that the plan that you have made is effective on that risk or not. Now, even the best risk management plans run into issues occasionally. Schedule consistent evaluation of risk management protocols and response scenarios to determine where your risk managers can make improvements. Risk managers should consult with various projects teams to determine the outcome of incidents and whether changes should be made. Now, this is a professionalism and an intelligence that you have risk plans ready before any risk happen. But even all successful plans can fail, or they can cause any issues while running. So you should have management, you should have managed those issues also, that how to accurate that issue, or how to solve that issue in no time that it couldn't cause more harm. And risk managers should be very proactive, that they should consult with various project teams to determine the outcome of incidents, that what risk, what type of risk can cause which harm, and how to stop them immediately if our plan goes fail, and what changes could be made. How do you monitor risk control procedures? Now this is the main thing, that how will you control those risk control procedure, monitor those risk control procedures. Following the above steps will help risk managers maintain control over many organizational risks, but it's important to have a system of checks and balances in place for ongoing risk mitigation. Now, the following points will help the risk managers to maintain control over many organizational risks. It's not talking about one specific risk, but it's about many risks. But it is important to have a system of check and balances in place of ongoing risk mitigation. But this will happen sometime. It's not much that every time when there will be any risk, then you will make a plan and you will implement them. It can help be helping on only one or two times, but you have to check on your systems before something happen. For example, much of the risk monitoring relies heavily on reviews and evaluation. So build this into your calendar to ensure adherence. By performing regular risk audits and consulting your risk registers on a constant basis, your organization will be much better poised to reduce the likelihood of risk and handle incidents swiftly and with as little impact as possible. Now, do you understand this, or do you have any question?
No questions.
No question. And what about you, Asfa? A little bit. Okay, where is the confusion, Asfa? So now let me give you an example. That you are working in a company, and risk means any sort of virus or some hacker attack, okay, someone to steal your information. Now that is a risk, and if there is some virus that can damage your data, So you can see that from where this virus has entered, what type of virus it is, and how much it can spread. And you should have antivirus installed, pre-installed before anything happens, and you will run that to save your rest of your data. And in the case of hackers, if hackers had attacked on your system, you will see that from which weakness of our software the hackers has entered into our system. You will block that, and then you will protect your rest of the data. Risk means these type of situations. Okay, now do you understand a bit more? Okay, good. So that was at 4.3. Now 4.4 is about to create a risk response plan. That there is a risk, and now after the risk, how will you respond? What will be your plan? What will be your next step after some risk has happened? Now we cannot control what is coming up, but we can control the response. It is important to take a step back and examine the previous topic of risk assessment, risk managing strategies, for two main reasons. First of all, change our perspective, and growth and evaluation results. Now, when something happens, we will not wait it for something to come. And the thing or the issue that is coming up, we cannot stop that issue. Yes, but we can cure them. Like illness is not a thing that a person can control, but when an illness has happened or a person is sick, then we have a plan. What is our plan? Go to the doctor, take the medications, and rest, and what to do, what not to do. These are the things. So it's same the case with the devices. The issue, the virus or the hackers that are coming up, we don't know about them, but once they have entered into our systems and they are damaging our data, then what will be our response? That is more important. Now the core theme of the piece from the beginning has really been about answering one basic question. You, your team, executive and risk owners have done the work of identifying, assessing and analyzing risk and opportunities. So the question that naturally comes is, now what? Now, when the risk, you know what is the risk, from where the problem has started, or which thing they will affect, and this is your plan. What will you do after that? That is the main thing. In some cases, reducing or avoiding risk is the best choice, especially if the alternative means breaking the law. It's common that risk management is all about reducing harm or avoid failure. But as will get into more, this isn't always the case. In fact, lead to failure. Now, there are some type of risk or issues like viruses, small, that we don't need to be considered much serious. Just we need to install one antivirus and that's it. It won't take so long. But it's not in the case of each and every issue. Now, remember too that your risk response strategy can change over time as conditions warrant, which is why consistent monitoring of risk and broader environment is so important. Now, if one time your computer is virused, it doesn't mean that next time it will be just virused also, or it will be the same virus. It can be a different virus, it can affect different files, or it can be a hacker attack also. So every time there will be your one strategy will not work. You have to make many strategies, as many as risks are there. Now, following are 5 potential risk response strategies to consider for handling strategic, operational, legal or other risk and opportunities. Now you have to learn about them very carefully, and if you know don't understand anything, ask me right away, okay? Risk response strategy 1: avoid. Now, as the name implies quitting a particular action or opting to not start it all is an option for responding to a risk. When you choose to avoid a risk, you are cutting off any possibility of it posing a threat to your enterprise. Executives and managers will choose this option for any risk that could get company in major legal trouble or lead to someone getting killed. Now, what could be an example? A recent example of this is the shift to working from home to prevent employees from contracting COVID 19. Most organizations decided to avoid the risk for their employees and getting sick. Now, avoid. What type of situation or risk we can avoid? Now, there is an example of COVID-19. Because due to that, first of all, if you are calling your employees during that pandemic, that was illegal, because they have banned the organizations to work. They said to work from home. Secondly, your employees health comes first, so you will save your employees health and uh, avoid getting sick. That is the risk strategy and risk response strategy to avoid some type of risk. Now you understand what type of risk we have to avoid. That it's not that we have to do a meeting. You can allow them to work from home, and if someone is not ill, if someone is ill, just give them leave or ask them to work from home. Don't burdenize them, so that each and every other employees are safe. Understood?
Yes, Miss.
Okay. What about you, Asfa and Zainab? Next one is risk response strategy number two, that is to reduce the risk. Now, what are the conditions where we have to reduce the risk instead of finishing that risk? What this mean in ERM speaks is to take steps to reduce the likelihood or impact of loss. Now, I want to ask from Abdullah that, Abdullah, what is ERM?
Like environment thing, I don't.
No, it is enterprise risk management. To talk with your enterprises means company's risk management team. Enterprise means your company. Now it's their responsibility to speak is to take steps to reduce the likelihood or impact of a loss. If there is a loss, that's their responsibility, the risk management team of the organization's responsibility to reduce the effect. If the risk is just slightly above your appetite and tolerance level, then reduction is a reasonable strategy for bringing it down to within acceptable limits. Now, if there is something that can be reduced and your data could be saved, and that can also save your time, then that is the best thing, that reduce that level and bring it down within acceptable limits where the risk is just acceptable and understandable, and with you can handle that. Now, on a personal level, we all employ risk reduction in one way or other in our daily lives. In our daily lives, we try to reduces the risk. Now, what kind of risk we can reduce in our daily life? Like we know that if we have two options. Either we will do work by our choice, either we will do work choice of the choice of your elders. Now, what is the risk? If you will do your work, you'll have to listen some kind of arguments from them, right? But if you will do your work as well as you will listen to them and do work in their way, you will reduce the risk of getting insulted. You get my point? Now, this is an example that when we get in our car to go somewhere, we put on seatbelt to reduce the potential impact of an accident. Notice, though, that is the action does not reduce the chance of an accident occurring. If that is your goal, then you would need to just stay home. Now, what does reducing the risk means? That from your side, you have to be prepared that nothing big happen. If you are sitting in a car and you are going for a ride, so you will wear your seat belt. Like that, if you are on bike, you will put on your helmet, but it doesn't mean that that will not cause accident and you will not get harmed. But it's like you are doing protection from your side to reduce the risk. Okay. Now the next one is risk response strategy number 3, that is transfer. Now, what does it mean to transfer? It means, unlike option 1 and 2, this option does not eliminate or reduce the changings of its occurring, but instead of delegates or transfer responsibility of the risk to a third party. Purchasing insurance for your home doesn't reduce or eliminate damage from a storm, but it does provide a financial safety net in the events damage do occur. Transfer means that you collaborate with some company, or for example, you're working in a company and that company, uh, if your data is being lost, you will attach your data to some other understandable and trustable company, so your data couldn't be lost. If your device's data is lost, so that company must have your data. It can be a cybersecurity team or a professional team that will handle your data, that will save your or take a backup of your data. You will transfer your data, that data is safe, and if something is happening on your system and you're losing your data, then that is a loss, that you have to copy paste all of your data again. But that's not a big loss, because your data is being saved also. Like that, there is an example of a house, that if you have a house insurance, and if there is a storm or flood or any kind of issue, then if your house is destructed or it's doomed, it no, that is your big loss. But by insurance, you have a financial safety that you can build up again, you can stand up again. It's not like you are barehanded now, you don't have anything. How will you build your home, or where will you stay? No, you have a financial safety also. Do you understand these 1, 2, and 3 strategies? Good, Asfa. Okay,
Yes, I understand, Miss.
good. Okay, good. Asfa, have you fully understood that, or if there is something that you don't understand? So now we will talk about our risk response strategy number 4, that is accept. Now, accept means that there will likely to be other risk outside your tolerance, where one of the other response options will not be good fit, since the probability and or the impact is too low that it does not make sense to expend resources to avoid, transfer, or reduce the risk. In cases like this, you can simply accept the risk and as is and do nothing. Yes, you had that right. You can do nothing. In other words, risk acceptance is a passive decision, since it requires no action. Now, it means once the damage has been done to your system, to your organization, you have to accept that loss. That, okay, this part we have lost. We can do nothing. Now, the example of this from the real life can be that there are 6 glasses on a shelf. Now, one glass has fell down and it's broken. Now, can that glass, broken glass, can be fixed again or not? No. So we have to accept that now this glass has broken. We cannot do anything about that particular thing, but we can save the rest of. So we have to move to the next part, instead of just sitting and talking about that, how that happened, why that happened, who did this, from where it did. No, we can do nothing about it. So we just have to accept that this is our loss and this has happened. Now what next? Now, therefore, unless you are avoiding the risk altogether, you are using a combination of reduce, mitigate, transfer, or to accept risk response strategy by default. Now, it's another thing that if you're not understanding about the risk, and maybe that risk is about to accept, but you're not accepting it, and you are trying to reduce that risk, or you are trying to transfer that risk, or you mix these all strategies. You have to be careful about what type of risk it is and what option we have with that risk. Now, number 5 is take risk. It's always been true, but it's even more so today. In order to succeed, you have to take risk. Now, if someone is starting an organization or a company, or any online company, or it's a sales option or anything, so obviously he or she will invest something, he or she will do something. It will take their time, their money, also their efforts, their hard works. But that is a risk. It may be run or it may not work. But to take the risk is really important. In this situation, you are actively facing the risk head on by making preparations. Having a game plan does not reduce the severity of likelihood of this event occurring. It simply makes the organization's actions post trick smoother and more integrated. To maintain security of anything, we have to make a list of possible things, like what are the weaknesses, from where they can attack from, which path attacking is easy, or is there more than one path to get attacked. Now, then we have to choose high risk and low risk. Which part of our organization is on higher risk, means more chances of getting attacked and face a big loss, and which part has low loss. According to that, we will see our management recovery plans for that loss. Now, we will set the priority first. High risk should be solved first, and then we will proceed to solve the low risk. Now, to take risk means that we have to know that what are the issues in our company or in our software, how people can attack us. And according to that, we will spend our money to make an antiviruses, or to talk with the cybersecurity team that our process shouldn't be hacked or anything else. Now, these hacking and viruses have not attacked yet, but still you will take a risk and you will spend your money to make yourself sure that no one could attack you in future, or this type of virus or this type of risk cannot harm us. Now, to do that, you have to see that what are the weaknesses of our software or our company through which people could attack us. Then you will see that which type of attack will lose or will give us a hard time. We will set the priorities of the issue, that which issues can occur, which issue is a bigger one that we have to solve first, and then we will go to the lower risk. We have to set the priorities. Now, these are the 5 strategies of risk response, that after the risk happen, what will be our response. Now, class, do you have any question regarding these points? Zainab, no good. Asfa, what about you? Do you understand all these 5 points? Okay, good. So since you don't have any questions, so it's the end of the class, and we will meet in the next class to complete the LO4 points. There are 2 topics left of LO4, that is 4.5 and 4.6. And after that, we have an assignment. Thank you so much, class.